Quentin Tarantino is a film buff. He never holds back, rarely changes his mind, and isn't afraid to criticize the work of other filmmakers. But he always seemed to have a particular dislike for Robert Altman. Now considered one of his finest movies when it was released in 1971, Altman's McCabe and Mrs. Miller was a box office flop. Widely panned by the critics, the film was described by its director as a revisionist Western. But the world wasn't yet ready for such dynamic movie-making. In the 1990s, Quentin Tarantino divided opinion with his own unique style. But that didn't stop him from making a scathing assessment of earlier attempts by Altman to subvert a genre and give the public something that made them sit up and take notice. Speaking on the Pure Cinema podcast, Tarantino summed up his relationship with Robert Altman by saying, "He didn't like me, and I didn't like him." It seems Tarantino was as critical of Altman as an individual as he was about his fellow filmmakers' work. He went on to describe the late Robert Altman as a freaking pothead, and in his own words, he claimed that Warren Beatty, who starred in McCabe and Mrs. Miller alongside Julie Christie, referred to Altman in the same unflattering way. Tarantino said that after hearing a rumor that Warren Beatty had taken on some of the directorial pressures during the making of the anti-Western movie, he approached the actor and asked him outright whether it was true. His response, according to Quentin Tarantino, was, "Well, you don't think that pothead could have gotten that performance out of Julie Christie, do you?" Christie was nominated for an Oscar as Best Actress for her role in McCabe and Mrs. Miller, but lost to Jane Fonda in Clute. Tarantino was pretty damning about his view on McCabe and Mrs. Miller, calling it terrible, and saying it displayed a strong level of mediocrity. But he was particularly critical of the opening reel, which he described as the worst in the history of Hollywood. But he didn't stop there. Tarantino went on to say Altman's reel had a level of incompetence that Hollywood never really goes below. "Hollywood maybe doesn't reach its heights every single solitary time," he said, "but it doesn't reach the lows.